things about taking pictures with an SLR instead of a point-and-shoot camera is having a high-quality optical viewfinder. There's a full array of status information shown in the viewfinder, including the focus points, the in-focus indicator, shutter speed, aperture, and the remaining capacity of the memory card. Before you start shooting, you need to take a second to focus the viewfinder optics to suit your own eyesight. You can do that by turning the diopter adjustment dial until the data displayed in the viewfinder appears sharp. Next to the diopter adjustment control is the Auto Exposure Lock, Auto Focus Lock button. We'll see how it's used later. We've already talked about the main command dial, so let's jump down to the Live View button. Live View enables you to display a real-time video image on the LCD monitor instead of using the normal viewfinder to take your pictures. In fact, you can even use the Live View mode to record home movies with the D90 instead of still photographs. To turn Live View on, you just press the button and it's ready to go. But note that now the regular viewfinder is blacked out and can't be used at all while Live View is turned on. To take a picture, you just press the shutter button like you normally would. Now to get out of the Live View mode and go back to using the viewfinder, simply press the Live View button again. Next, there's the multi-selector switch that functions kind of like a joystick for navigating through the menus, viewing the images that are stored on the memory card, and also for controlling which of the focus points are selected in the viewfinder. I'll usually refer to these controls during the rest of the DVD as the 4 arrow buttons. The OK button is pretty self-explanatory. Anytime you want to make a selection from the menus, you just press the OK button. It's also used as the Record Start Stop button when you're shooting movies, but we'll talk about that later. Next is the Focus Selector Lock switch. Rotating it to the L position will prevent the selected focus point from changing if the multi-selector is accidentally pressed. I recommend that you leave this unlocked. Next, there's the Information Display button, which can be pressed to bring up a shooting information screen that shows almost 36 different camera settings, including the shutter speed, aperture, the number of exposures remaining, and much more. Now, a lot of this data is also shown on the control panel and in the viewfinder. But sometimes, such as when the camera is on a tripod like this, it's a lot easier to see the settings displayed on the monitor instead. But that's not all this button does. Watch what happens when the Info button is pressed a second time. Now, several of the settings along the bottom of the screen can be highlighted and then changed without drilling down into the menu screens. This shortcut can be a big time saver. To turn off the information display, you can either wait 10 seconds and the camera will do it for you, or you can press the Info button a third time. Over on the left side of the monitor, there are 6 additional buttons that have multiple functions each. There's the Delete button, the Playback button, the Menu button, the Protect button, the Thumbnail button, and the Playback Zoom In button. These all work closely with each other, so it makes sense to talk about them all at once. Both photographs and movies can be viewed on the monitor at any time by pressing the Playback button. This view is called the File Information Display. The most recently taken image or the last one you viewed is shown first. You can view other images stored on the memory card by using the left and right arrow buttons on the multi-selector to go backwards or forwards. You can always tell which image you're looking at by noting the numbers that are displayed in the upper right-hand corner. The number to the left of the slash tells you the number of the current image, and the number to the right of the slash tells you how many images are stored on the card. At the bottom of the screen, you can see the folder where the image is stored, the file name, the image quality, the image size, the time of day, and the date it was taken. To view additional information, you can press either the up or down arrow buttons to switch to the Overview data display. Now we've added the exposure mode, the shutter speed, the aperture of the lens, a histogram, and other information. Whenever you're playing back images, they can be viewed individually as seen here, or as thumbnails by pressing the thumbnail button. You can choose to show 4 images per page, 9 images, 72 images, or even use the new calendar display to easily find photos organized by the day they were taken. Let's use the Playback Zoom In button to go back to the thumbnail page that shows 4 images. Notice that each photo is individually numbered, and a bar on the right side of the screen tells you approximately where you are in relation to the rest of the photos stored on the card. Any thumbnail image with film sprocket holes along the sides is a movie file. When you find a photo that you want to view full screen, just press the OK button to exit the thumbnail view. And if full screen view isn't good enough to see the details, for example, if you wanted to check to see if an image was in focus, you can press the Playback Zoom In button repeatedly to magnify the image. You can scroll around to see other parts of the photo by using the arrow buttons. To decrease the magnification, press the thumbnail button to zoom back out, or just press the OK button at any time to immediately return to the normal full-screen view. Now, if you're like me, sometimes you'll be able to tell right away that a photo you took is no good. So why not just get rid of it and free up some space on the memory card? You can do that with the Delete button. Whenever there's a photo displayed on the monitor that you don't want to keep, you can press the Delete button, and a confirmation screen will appear. Press the Delete button again to confirm the deletion, and the picture is gone, so be careful. However, for just the opposite situation, if you've got an important image on the memory card that you want to prevent from being deleted, press the Protect button. Whenever you see the key icon overlaid on any picture, that means it's locked and can't be deleted. Unless, of course, you reformat the entire memory card. To unprotect an image, just press the Delete button again. Even though the D90 has a couple of dozen external buttons, switches, and knobs, many of the camera's most important functions can only be accessed via the menu screens. And those are displayed on the monitor by pressing the menu button. The color-coded display with intuitive descriptions facilitates easy viewing and speedy navigation. By the end of this DVD, you should have no problem navigating the menus and making changes. But for now, let's skip the menus because there's a whole chapter devoted to them later on. Now, you may have noticed that 3 of the buttons in this area of the camera also have labels written above them. That's because they aren't just used for playback functions, they are also used to change important camera settings while you're shooting. By pressing the WB button and turning the main command dial, you can change the white balance setting. To change the ISO setting, just hold down the button and turn the main command dial. The same thing goes for image quality and image size. To change the image quality, hold the button down and rotate the main command dial. Or to change the image size, rotate the sub-command dial on the front of the camera. Each of these settings can also be changed with the camera's menu system, but you'll quickly appreciate the convenience of having dedicated buttons right at your fingertips. Now, on this side of the camera, you'll find the slot for the memory card. The door is opened by sliding it back, but you should always make sure the camera is turned off before inserting or ejecting a card. If you forget, chances are nothing bad will happen, but it's just good practice to turn the power off before removing either the memory card, the battery, or the lens. Now, the D90 uses secure digital memory cards for storage, and pressing on the card briefly will eject it. Memory cards must be formatted before they can be used for the first time, and then later on, whenever you want to completely erase all of the images on the card and start shooting with a clean slate. I recommend that you reformat your memory cards every time you load them into your camera, assuming, of course, that you've already transferred all the images stored on the card to your computer for safekeeping. Please note that formatting a memory card will erase all files on the card, including any photos that have been protected. Formatting a card is very easy and takes just a couple of seconds. Start by pressing the menu button, and then go to the Setup menu page, and choose Format Memory Card. Answer yes, and the formatting will be completed in a few seconds or less. If I press the Info button, I can now see the total capacity of the memory card. In other words, at the current image quality and size settings, this is about how many exposures I can expect to capture on the card. Well, that's it. That concludes our walk around the camera, and you should now have a better understanding of the basic controls and settings on the D90. I know this chapter wasn't too exciting, but it's very important to have this basic foundation as we continue through the rest of the DVD. Like all digital SLRs, there are dozens of settings on the Nikon D90 that can only be changed by accessing the menus. Fortunately, the camera has a simple menu system that is very easy to understand. The menus have been divided into 6 main sections, each represented by an icon on the left side of the screen. There's Playback, Shooting, Custom Setting, Setup, Retouch, and Recent Settings. Now, because the D90 has over 90 different menus, and each of them have at least 2 and sometimes several settings to choose from, almost nobody could understand them all right away. And there's no reason you need to. A lot of the menus you'll probably never change, and the important ones will be covered as we go along. So just relax and learn the D90 at your own pace. A nice feature on the D90 is that it has a handy in-camera help system that covers nearly every menu on the camera. Whenever you see this icon on screen, you can hold down the Help button to show a brief description of the current menu selection. The explanations are actually quite helpful, and they make a good learning tool as you get to know the camera better. The playback menus control how you view images on the monitor, transfer images to a computer, or print directly to a printer. The shooting menus directly control the settings that determine the look, style, size, and quality of the pictures you take. The custom setting menus are used to change how the camera functions while you're shooting. You can customize things like the autofocus system, the metering and exposure controls, and many other settings to make them work however you like. The setup menus control things like the date and time, cleaning the image sensor, and formatting the memory card. The retouch menus allow you to make a variety of in-camera adjustments and enhancements to images after they have been shot. If you don't want to use a computer to edit your images, this is the next best thing. And you don't have to worry about damaging the original image because the camera automatically saves the retouch version as a new file. Delighting automatically brings out detail in shadows to enhance the overall exposure. Red eye correction automatically detects and compensates for the annoying red eye effect sometimes caused by the flash. Trim can be used to produce cropped versions of your images. Monochrome changes your images to black and white, sepia, or cyanotype. That means blue tinted. Filter Effects tries to simulate the effect you'd have gotten if you had used a traditional glass filter on the lens of your camera when you took the picture. Color Balance changes the overall hue of the image. Small Picture creates smaller versions of your pictures for easy emailing or posting on a website. Image Overlay merges a pair of selected RAW files to create a new composite image. Quick Retouch creates a modified image with enhanced saturation and contrast. Straighten allows you to level